it has the new education policy has given a chance for experiential learning. Of course, there would be a challenge of so many government school where even buildings are not there. So how they are going to expand their their infrastructure facility for experiential learning? So this is second stage challenge. We'll meet that, but this has got very good perspective of new education policy, including experiential learning. Now, the 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, and in detail has already been explained by my relay speaker. So I will not repeat it. Now, coming to the shortcomings, I have prized a lot about new education policy. Now, whatever the shortcomings I have jolted down or it came in my mind is, number one, the way we have got Indian Administrative Services exam, IAS, why don't we have ITS, Indian Teaching Services, so that the cream of the lot, or should opt for teaching? You would, Rajul, you will agree with this fact with me that even IIT's professor, those who are teaching for last 20 years, if you compare their package, is half of the package what their passing out student gets. So you see, people will tell you that कि आप teaching में हो तो आपको respect चाहिए. It's okay, but there is a time when you ask yourself that what I have earned. You go to market, the car wala the showroom owner will not say that, okay, you are a teacher, then I will give you car of 15 lakhs in 10 lakhs. So Indian government, if they are honest, they should think about the remuneration of teachers. They should come up with Indian teaching services policy. Number one. Number two, in my beginning, I have mentioned that for last 20 years, last 70 years, we could not come up with a organization, university like Oxford, Harvard, and all. You see, why? Because if you research about why this Silicon Valley is leading, dominating the software industry, if you try to find out the reason, there was a person named Frederick Professor Frederick Terman in Stanford University. He had allotted a few acres of land in their university campus for nurturing of the idea of the students, and that could later on given birth of companies like blue chip company like HP, Google, Hewlett Packard, and also many. In India, we could only count handful of company like Infosys and so many, and others might be in 2 or 3 count, that those come up in last 20 years. So there is a shortcoming here also, that the ideas of the students, how they are going to convert it into sellable product, is still missing. Thank you so much. I believe I finished in my stipulated time.
No, absolutely, absolutely, sir. We agree with you, sir. Absolutely, we all agree with your remarks that there are many challenges, and there have been challenges every time with everything. Like the key skill is to find solutions. How we find solutions for them. You also talked about the lack of infrastructure capabilities as a nation we have, and this pandemic has only exposed that part. There are many school partners, let's say from big cities like Banaras or Varanasi. From I'm sure you also know such examples. Even they share that they do not have the right bandwidth of internet. In the main city like Varanasi, the PM city. So we can just imagine about the situation in the rural areas or the cities of UP and Bihar. You also talked about, and you shared your one idea that why we cannot have teachers entrance exam in the lines with UPSC civil service exam. In fact, during our last session, a principal from Sehwag International School, Dhirendra Singh ji, participated, and he shared that he is an ex-army person. So he shared that we should have teachers recruitment exam in the lines with that CDS or NDAs or SSBs. The thorough inspection, the thorough check at the entry level, so that right people must take the charge as a teacher. You also talked about that, why you shared your assessment that why we could not have international institutions like Harvard, Oxford, because we have less emphasis upon originality. We have less appreciation for originality. We want ideas, which can be replaced, which can be copied. So we need to focus upon that. So thank you, Suryadev sir, for these very strong ideas and solutions. I'll be coming back to you with questions. Thank you for that, sir. Now, with this, I would request Gaurav Pal sir from IntelliClass. Gaurav sir, over to you.
Right. Thank you, Rajulji, for this opportunity. Everyone has spoke about NEP. I would actually try to limit myself about and like talking about what it means to me when I talk about education. You know what education is, because then only we can talk about education policy. And to me, education stands on three pillars, and with absence of even one pillar, education is incomplete. When we talk about education, it should be based upon knowledge, which is yes, knowing about your subjects, knowing about the integrities of the topics what you are like reading, whether it is science or maths or arts. But education is not just about knowledge. Education is also about skills, you know. And in like today's world, it has become more and more important. Everyone is talking about experiential like learning and skills imparting from the early age. But what do we mean by skills? What do we mean by imparting skills and uh, experiential like learning? Uh, I got an opportunity to read a book a couple of years back when I was like working in my professional career, and it was like written by a very futuristic writer, Elvin Toffler, and the name of the book was Future Shock. So this book actually was like published in 1980s, and it was all about upcoming 21st like century. So it's an old book, but it's still very very valid when we talk about. And in that book he mentioned about one quote where he said that the illiterate of the 21st century is not the person who can read or write, but illiterate of the 21st like century will be the person who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn. And this has become so important in these days when we talk about, because the way the need of skill is changing. You know, we introduce a concept of Java in grade 8, and by the time the student goes out of class, out of school in 3 years, that like technology is completely obsolete. And student thinks like, I have spent 3 years 4 years of my time gaining some control and command over this technology, and it is of no use to me when actually I go out and search for a job or on my like, career. So they have to be continuously groomed about how to unlearn things. So learning is important, unlearning and relearning is equally important. The kind of stress which we are seeing in like kids these days, they're so stressful more than their parents, in fact, you know, some of the times. And we are seeing rise of aggression, rise of suicidal attempts, all these things in school kids, college kids, which is very very worrisome, I would say. So if we do not let them know, if we do not introduce them to the concept of failures, we don't teach them how to fail in life. Every school, every college will feel pride in highlighting in front of their school name how many IIT selections or medical selections have gone this year from this school, or what's the highest package a graduate student has got from this engineering college. Is this the only benchmark for education? Is this the only benchmark for success? That reality has to change. And I don't blame schools and colleges for this. It is not just their responsibility to bring in education, it is a collective responsibility of the parents and the teachers together. So that mindset has to be changed even with the parents, I would say, at that point of time. And we need to teach them, because the way like things are going, we have got 320 million, I would say, population in the which is less than 30 years of age. With that kind of a population, how we are going to generate these kind of opportunities for them? We have to make them aware about that not everyone will be as successful as their peers, and there will be challenges in life. How to embrace those challenges, how to embrace those like struggles, has to be very important aspect of education, right? So that is a more important skill than learning skills in terms of technology or like linguistic. And the third pillar of education, I believe, is behavior, right? So knowledge, skills, and behavior makes a complete educated person. No person is educated if one thing is missing over there. Are we imparting enough? Uh, I would say time in school and outside school to create that behavior, to give them exposure to a right set of like behavior values. So that is very much missing, I would say, in many aspect of the education like system what we have. In fact, Swami Vivekananda also said that the education is the manifestation of the perfection already exists in man. So are we enabling that? We should be enabler. It is not important to answer the question every time. It is very important to ask the right question. So that kind of curiosity, which like the philosophy of Jiddu Krishnamurti on education, when we talk about whether that is inculcated in the education system or not. So these three main ingredients of education has to be imparted, I would say, it at all level of education, whether it is foundation or primary or secondary or higher education. These things has to play a very important aspect. Education policy, all of you have like talked about, and also have raised some concern about the challenges of implementation. I would say that seeing, I was a very very nervous person about education system a year ago, in fact, but this pandemic, I would say, has given me a new hope. No other vertical in the system, in the society, has embraced like technology so fast how our education system has done in last 1 year. That is really commendable. Yes, there is a challenge, there is a limitation of bandwidth, there is a limitation of handheld devices, but I would say that the collaborative approach which we have seen, if in pandemic, in just 10 months, if the technology has gone to even, I would say, 30% of the people associated with education, it's a big achievement. We could not have done this in 10 years what we have done in 1 year. So I would say that we have to learn, we have to see things from that positivity, that yes, it is possible to change even in pandemic, even with so much of restrictions around. When we could change like 30% of the system, in a year or two we can change the whole system. So that is the energy what I see in the education like system right now. Also, uh, Dr. Roy mentioned about the challenges about imparting education in various languages, which is part of the NEP. I would like to contradict over here, and I would like to add my opinion. It is again my personal opinion over here, that when we leave our language behind, we cannot carry our culture forward. You talk about any country, if you talk about best education systems, whether it is Finland or Denmark or Japan or Korea, top 4 5 education systems of the world, if you talk about engineering studies in like Germany or in Russia, you cannot think even about imparting education in English in those countries, right? English is a subject, but English is not the medium of education in any of these countries. And when you talk about, because all our historical writings, all our literature, all our valuable learnings are recorded in our own languages, whether it is Telugu, Tamil, like Malayalam or Hindi or Sanskrit. But our students, our kids at home, like cannot read them. There are a lot of books lying in each and every house. But whether my kids or your kids can read those books, no, they are not. They are not able to. So if we don't like, teach them in their own language, if we don't like carry forward our mother tongue forward, our regional languages forward, in few years or might be in few decades, we will actually lose our complete identity, right? Yes, English has played a very vital role. That was the need of an hour, and we are not saying that English should not be used or as a medium of, but we should give a lot of importance to the regional languages so that like people can be connected, can remain connected to the roots, because that is the way where they can be happy. So we have to think of that aspect, how we can generate or how we can enable happy generation going forward. So that is one aspect. Second point, and with which I would like to conclude my talk, would be up till now, education was more rule based, right? We are following these CBSE guidelines, we are following these AICT or UGSC like guidelines. That was more rule based approach what we used to follow. We have to move from the rule based approach to the principle based approach or the outcome based approach. We have to, rules are important, but outcome is much more important than rules, so we need to change the mindset where we have to gauge what is the outcome of our activity, how well we have like contributed back to the society, and then only it will remain like relevant going forward. Right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gaurav sir. We all agree with you when you say that it's a collective responsibility of parents and teachers to implement these parts and to inculcate those values. And this has been, I believe, one big achievement this NEP has already done, that it has created that mass awareness. Many educators believe that the role of and importance of parents in the entire education ecosystem was underrated so far. So this NEP has made an effort where we need to involve our parents and we need to encourage their proactive participation. Even during our sessions, many of the educators have accepted this, that they do not have this data. What kind of diversity their parents are bringing to the table. So many schools don't carry that. They are unable to take advantage of their parents' background. So you talk about it, and we all agree with you. And we also agree with you the assessment you made, that we cannot carry our culture, without carrying our language, without giving due respect to our own languages. So thank you, Gaurav sir, for these important and wonderful remarks. I'll be coming back to you. Now with this, I would request Dr. Aarti Pandey for your remarks, your ideas.
Yeah, so thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. It is really a privilege for me to listen all these speakers about new education policy. This policy, because this is going to come in our country after 34 years. Our country, this policy we need. The reason is that because many things are changing, and now education is not like any national or something in the local. We are talking about all things about the global education. And new education policy, of course, it has just started. There are some SOP that should be formulated by Government of India, and it should reach to all the school, even to the urban, to the rural, everywhere. This is still in the pipeline. But what I can see after listening and after going through all this new education policy, we have a lot of dream to bring the changes in the country. But at the same time, we have the challenges. But Indians are ready, because we have seen during the pandemic in the last 1 year, and one of our speaker was rightly saying that we are very used to learn the new thing very fast. And that we have seen that in this time, even we are doing this meeting using the new technology that is Google Meet. That why we are not so friendly 1 year and 1.5 years before. So this is just the advancement in the technology. And when we are in the difficult situation, we get more innovation. And that's required in the education system. So that's why this new education policy is not something like education. It's a learning for everyone. And this is to develop a creative thinking among the student. The most important thing is that because the government that is planning to bring this new education policy to hopefully that will make a new skill India, to have more like a talented people that will create more jobs, and there will be less competition. But there are certain important like a roadmap that should be made by Government of India, or maybe like the way that we are discussing. If this document can go to the Government of India, And if some important point can be made and implement thoroughly, then hopefully it will work. But again, like country where we have more rural part, like we have the education like Anganwadi and other, how we are going to reach there, how to we are going to work in the infrastructure in the rural school. These are the major challenges. But meanwhile, we can see that we need to develop this policy to bring a scientific way of teaching. That what happened that sometimes this is a proof that when you are teaching something theory classes, either physics, chemistry, biology, or engineering, and at the same time, when we teach the theory classes with the practicals together, this is the scientifically proven that both, if you have, then the things will remain in the memory for the long time. This has been already justified by the scientific experiment. So hopefully by doing this scientific exercise in the school, that will bring a new innovation, new landmark for the education policy. And one more thing that I always, this is just my opinion, is that because you can see that in this time, in last 1 year, this is the current example of COVID-19. The government is asking that you need to wear the mask, you need to use the sanitizer, and if you don't do, then there will be fine of this rupee, that much, like this. But see that this is not the benefit of a government, and this is not the benefit of other person. This is just for your own protection. And this comes under the health education. This is also a part of education. If you know, if you are aware about your education, and you know that that is the need of the country, hopefully we will be able to save ourselves. And there is no meaning of that the police is sitting or standing on the road and they are doing their hard duty and they are asking for the money and they are pulling down and they are stopping you. Other than that, you see that in 2019, December, this COVID-19 was started in Wuhan city of China. Suppose if the people are aware that like, this is a viral disease, we know that all these pathogen, like we know the virus, we know the bacteria, fungus, but many people, frankly speaking, in country like India, we have a very less good virologist scientist. Okay, so to understand the virology, this requires again the education system. Suppose if somebody were aware about what does it mean by the virology and how this virus is spread, then probably this pandemic why not anywhere, because we can have the localize this pandemic only in the Wuhan city just by stopping the traveling from that city to the other city. Other relevance, if you can see from the health point of view, one disease that I give you one example that everyone know about, tuberculosis, TB. That is the disease of 100 years. We have the vaccine of BCG. But sometimes if you go through the literature, you will finding out this BCG vaccine is getting a problem and it is not working very well. The reason is that because this is a bacterial disease, and what is happening, that bacteria is getting resistance, and that is called the antimicrobial resistance. So there are approach. One approach we are talking about education to train, to bring the science, to bring the scientific environment, to innovate the drug, to innovate the vaccine. But at the same time, if you see that all these pathogens are also doing the exercise at the same time, and they are evolving very fast. And that's why we are not able to tackle. So that's why if we don't implement a new education, if you don't do this exercise, that is going to be a major problem in the society. The reason is that because this is the current pandemic that we are going through. Maybe in the future some other pandemic will come. If we will be not ready for if we not extended our education system, then how we are going to tackle it? So that's why this is the need of the country to have a new education policy to bring our country at the new level. Of course, there are many points that we need to discuss, but I do agree with the language, like new education policy that they are promoting their local languages. I think this is also going to bring a new dimension of education, because the way that we communicate in our local languages, that is more prosperous, that is more productive than the other languages, because English is not our native language. So this is just my general thought that I am sharing. Again, I am very much thankful to School Lalaji and all the speakers that sharing this thought. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Pandey, and we all agree with you that we need to embrace technology. We need to find more innovative ways to solve the current challenges and for the execution. Thank you, Dr. Pandey. I'll be coming back to you with questions. And
Thank
now
you.
I would request our last speaker for the session, Ms. Soumya Srivastava. Soumya, over to you.
Thank you so much. Allow me to please share my screen. Do let me know if my screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible, Soumya.
All right, thank you. All right, so we at Fatardo School of Music really feel that the most amazing part of this initiative is the integration of arts and music with main screen academics, as I mentioned in my introduction. What this does is it ensures that every child can experience this as a part of the day-to-day learning, something that we have seen in most countries follow for many decades now. So let me just tell you all a bit about FSM and our brand name. So Fatardos is something that was established back in 1865 and has always been a leader in the field of musical instruments, accessories, print music, and digital equipment. Coming to Fatardo School of Music with a vision to make quality music education accessible to children, individuals, young adults, and making the whole learning process much more fun-filled, joyous, and memorable. That's our vision, and that's what we've been doing in schools and off schools in general. We have been transforming lives with respect to music. Through our offline model in schools pre-pandemic, we had 75,000 children, 15 plus centers, 145 plus schools. But since the lockdown has happened, we've moved to the whole thing online, and I will be talking about that eventually. We also have FSM and school programs. So under the school program, essentially what we do is we invest in all the music instruments, design the music room in the school premises. We also deploy trained music teachers from the industry who are trained on how to teach a child music, not just for passion, but if somebody wants to take it as a career ahead. And that's how the students learn. And they don't just learn, they also get to give exams going forward, say with Trinity College of London or Berkeley, or however they want to pursue music ahead. As I mentioned, we have affiliated with a lot of schools. We have a pool of 75,000 students. There are a couple of pretty known schools here like D.Y. Patil International, Nahar International, CNS, etc. We also have, so apart from learning, FSM also believes in giving students a platform to come and showcase what they've learned. So it's not just about the learning and the examination, but also a platform where musicians can actually showcase what they've learned. So we have events like Cadence, the piano concert. Now, since we've moved the whole thing online, we've also been doing the Strings Fest or the Woodwind Fest, Vocals Fest, etc. We have recitals. Every school used to have their own recital, workshops, etc. We have been tied up with the Berklee College of Music, NMIMS, and such brands where students don't just get to learn, but also get to be affiliated with the top B schools in India, if not with the international schools. Now, as I mentioned, since the lockdown happened, well, as somebody mentioned earlier in this panel, that as educationists, the show had to go on. So we continued with the whole learning thing, even if it was new for, say, students or teachers. We had to move the whole thing online, and we moved, we adapted to the online methodology, including the students, and we started conducting online classes, and it has met with a huge success and appreciation from parents and students alike. Along with music and non-music classes, we also have been conducting online classes for corporates, including HDFC, HSBC, etc. And we also have a weekly meet and greet that happens every Saturday, where students come in, and students of all age groups, I might add, they come in and they showcase what they know. And it's not a competition, it's just a platform where musicians alike just share what they know and learn from each other. We've also been doing a lot of, seasonal workshops, say summer workshops, winter workshops, master classes, etc., where people get to directly learn from the industry professionals, and not just music, but everything, in a very holistic way. We also had something known as Bandit, which was our first ever offline event, which we moved online since the pandemic. And that has been India's largest inter-school band competition, where schools, not necessarily if they were an FSM student, but schools over 1,000 students, they were engaged from all over the country, and they created bands and they sent in their videos, and they got a platform to come and showcase whatever they've learned. And it was a huge turnout for both solo and band. To end, I would just like to say that, music is a powerful message, one that inspires all to pursue their dreams and to be, very effectual anchor on the days when they need more support. And FSM in its small way seeks to make this a reality. So I'm really excited to see that, music has been included in the NEP as a vocational course. The vocational courses have been included, and we're really looking forward to see how it goes. Thank you. Over to you, Rajul.
Thank you, Soumya, for sharing how music can play a role, how it can create the difference, how it can bring more efficiency. Thank you for that. And with this, we come to the the next part of the session, the last part of the session, question part. We already have received many questions, from different educators on national education policy. But before I start presenting these questions to you all, I'll just take a minute in explaining what exactly we have been doing, at School Lalaji Solutions. So please allow me to share my screen for a minute. Some of you are already aware with School Lalaji Solutions, we are India's largest one-stop solution platform for educational institutions. We are present in 42 cities, working with somewhere around 4,500 institutions. We help educational institutions in three ways. We help them in buying right thing from right people at right price. We also help them in selling their old items like their buses, generators. We also help institutions in raising money, that may be in terms of loans or fee financing. Why there is a need for a platform like School Lalaji Solutions? You already have your own suppliers, your team is expert, you believe that you are getting good discount. There are two reasons. One, India has more than 10,000 companies which are working in education space. They all have wonderful products, they have wonderful services to offer. But one big challenge for education leader is that you are not able, and your bandwidth does not allow you to meet everyone. So we help you here. We come into picture. We understand your school, your institution. We understand your actual requirements. your budgetary limitation, and then we connect you with the right people. We have our expertise in different categories like smart classroom procurement, uniform, insurance, diesel, solar plant, language lab, security solutions, furniture, recruitment, music classrooms, healthcare, robotics, STEM STEAM labs, career counseling, stationery, digital marketing, IT solutions, educational tour, generators, learning tools, and finance. And we take the guarantee that we'll save at least your 5 to 7% of your annual expenditure. So that's kind of a 5% additional revenue generation for your institution. Just one example, we saved 2 crore 40 lakh rupees in 2019, just one category for different institutions. That's bus insurance. Some major highlights: solar installation, bus insurance, smart classroom, cameras, training programs. By the end of 2021, we aim to reach out to 10,000 institutions. We need your support, your guidance, your blessings. Thank you. I'll end my talk here. Right. So now I'll request our speakers, if I if I can present the questions. I'll check up if Puneet ma'am, do we have your presence? So I would like to present the first question to you. Right. So I'll request Kavita ma'am, if I may present the first question to you.
Yes, please.
Right. So ma'am, this question, I'll divide this question in two parts. This has come from Ms. Shweta Pathak. Shweta Pathak ji is the academic head with Sunbeam School, Varanasi. The question says how the implementation of national education policy would change, teachers' recruitment in coming time. So Kavita ma'am. Kavita ji, am I audible to you?
Yes. I heard the question. Okay, so the recruitment policy, there is no plan as such which is being shared right now. So what exactly is there as per the CBSE norms, as per the CBSE affiliation bylaws is still in place. It is something which they are talking about, that yes, there will be certain changes in the recruitment policy. But what exactly the elaborate version is still to be received from the NEP. So that is something which I wanted to tell. But yes, they are putting more focus on continuous professional development, positive working environment, and there will be a strong service condition and rules which are going to be imposed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I'll be coming back to you. I would request Suryadev sir, if I may present this one to you.
Yeah, of course.
Surya sir, this has been asked by Ms. Alka Gupta. Alka Gupta ji is principal with Vinayak Global School, Palwal, Faridabad, Haryana. The question says how NEP is going to help the students from rural background.
You see, it's a very vital question. As Mr. Rajul has already said in the beginning that in schools like rural areas has got a lot of challenges. But I'm sure, as Mr. Rajul had said in the beginning, that Mr. Modi does things with full commitment, right? So it is going to help rural education, like whatever the infrastructure lacking they might be having. It will be rectified in coming years, coming few months, years may take. And the major thing is that the rural background people are to, because from 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, the student will learn the professional courses, like they will earn the skills. Like someone is capable of doing carpentry, he will be trained in carpentry domain and will be taught to get the livelihood. Similarly, someone is very good at electric part. So this is how I'm very much optimistic about new learning policy. This NEP will be providing much more employment opportunity to rural students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you. I would request Gaurav sir, if I may present this next question to you.
Yes, Rajulji, please.
The question has come from Mr. Sudhir Kanthola. Sudhir ji is a dean exam with Vellum Girls School, Dehradun. The question says, you know, what are your assessment? How do you visualize Indian school system 15 years from now? What would be the key changes you perceive?
See, school systems have always evolved with time. There was a time, if we go back to history, there was no formal kind of a public school system 200 years ago. It was all based upon gurukuls, you know. That was how Indian education system was. And when we talk about the ongoing changes, I think a lot of relevancy would be given to skills. A lot of relevancy will be like given to, and I think one of a very very good part is the like credit repository. What the government is trying to create, which will allow seamless education even after breaks. You know, so that is going to change the way the integration of various subjects opening up. So it will not be now that I am a science student or I am a commerce student. It will be like I am a student. That will gain more importance than being a science student or a commerce student. So it will like create a lot of overall exposure to the candidate, to the I would say young crowd in India, and that will result into a lot of innovations which should come out of India. Being such a young population, one of the youngest population in the world, and one of the largest population in the world, still we lack in a lot of innovations. So I would say when we open up the education system from the basic like childhood age, from the age of like grade 6, we are introducing vocational classes now as per the new NEP. That should lead into a lot of innovations coming out of India. So schools will become real enabler rather than just knowledge distribution centers. That is what I foresee schools to become.
Wonderful. We all hope for the same that it happens. Thank you, Gaurav sir. I'll request Dr. Pandey if I may present this one to you.
Please, please.
So let me. This is a very regular question, Dr. Pandey. Gaurav sir shared during his talk that without giving due importance to the our own languages, we cannot carry our culture. But this is a very regular question. A lot of people have asked, but there would be a lot of challenges if we start following that mother tongue kind of concept, in our schools. So, what challenges you perceive and what benefits you perceive?
Yeah, because regarding this, what I would like to say, because if you see the global perspective, because now education system is the global. So most of the books, most of the training, most of the practicals, it is in the English written. But other side, I would just like to share my experience while I was in Taiwan or other Brazil, where the people speak Portuguese, and Taiwan, the people speak the Taiwanese. And one of my friend who was a doctorate, and he was not able to know he and she. English was very poor. But he was a very good scientist. And even in Taiwan, they prefer to have a meeting their own language. They write in the paper, they do their everything in their own language. But I think what's happened, because language is only a communication skill that we develop, like a talking skill. Sometimes even if you don't know the language, if you go to the other part of the planet, just by doing some indication by hand or by your eye, you will be able to talk. And this is also like English or some other language, because we recognize at the global platform. But other than that, what happens if you talk in the global language, you are quite comfortable and expressing yourself in the front of the audience, in the front of the people. And in this way, what happens, you have the holistic development of a child. When the child nurtured in a holistic development, after some time, what will happen? Because one person can learn 4 languages, 5 languages. Many people can learn many languages. This is not a problem. But at least you should be educated, you should be learned, and you are receptive to learn the languages. That require the homework that this new education policy is going to bring to have a local language as a priority. This is my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Pandey. And with this, we come to the end of this session. But before
Yeah,
we close,
Mr. Raju,
yes, ma'am.
may I take 1 minute of yours?
Yeah,
As
please.
as there was a question related to the recruitment policy, which is going to change, just to add
Right.
on one thing, that is teachers' eligibility test will be in place, but then it is only on paper, not yet being implemented. When it will be, it is not even being notified. There is something which is called CTET, which is being made mandatory from this year onwards. Earlier, it was like something wherein it was an option, it was holding an optional category. But now, even for the privatized unaided schools as well, it is being made mandatory. So earlier, it was like something wherein if they come to seek an employment in a privatized school, to be a teacher, there was something called demonstration, which has to be a demo lesson has to be taken. There was a simple interview and some questions which were being framed by the school, and that was put across, was considered as to be the norm of recruitment. But now TET, once that is in place, that will be made mandatory for all centralized and the privatized schools. Just to add on, and there will be an NTA as well, National Testing Agency will also be recording the test scores in the corresponding subjects for the TGT staff recruitment. Just to add on.
Right.
Yeah?
I have,
Thank
I
you.
have Kavita ma'am, I have a supplementary question here. Like, what is the biggest challenge? What is the bigger challenge? The challenge one, a lot of people say that the recruitment process, is that the challenge, or the kind of stuff, the kind of people who are coming ahead to become teachers, that is the challenge.
So what I personally, that's what I have told earlier as well when I was showcasing my presentation. The CBSE norms says that you should have a professionally qualified person to be hired as a teacher. And from where you will get that qualification, that is basically when you complete your BEd degree, holding a BEd degree, right? So that is something there. But then in my school, if I will consider, I have most of the teachers who are really passionate towards teaching. And then once they came, and then they have enrolled themselves to take up this BEd course. So that was there. Now, coming to the recruitment policy, it was very simple for the PRT teachers and for the entity. Come face the interview, give a demonstration, and then you are being hired. Okay, so sometimes they don't even do better while in front of the management or in front of the principal. That usually happens. But now it will be drifted to TET scores, to CTET scores, and then the NTA. So there are many things which are in place, but then that's what I told, it is all on paper. It is when we are going to implement it, whether these scores will be made really mandatory, those things are still on paper, because CTET, the January 31st was the last date. So many of the teachers have done it, but the privatized teachers, they are not at all interested. Only the central government teachers who are interested, they will be doing it. It is not being made mandatory for the private teachers. Yeah.
Right. But in practice, many private schools, they are giving preference to those people who have good CTET score.
Correct. That is there. It is always an added advantage to score good in CTET and produce the results in front of schools. Yes.
And it's a good exam. It's a good quality exam.
Yeah, it's a good quality exam. A little difficult to crack it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, ma'am, for adding that. And with this, we come to the end of this very special 116th session. But before we end the session, I would request all our key speakers if we can have your concluding remark. And we have established one very interesting practice during last few sessions, that while sharing your concluding remark, if you can also suggest or share some idea that you would like to implement if you get a chance to become Minister of Education of our country. So what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education for one day? So I'll request RP Pandey, if we can begin with you, your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you become Minister of Education for one day? Dr. Pandey, do we have your presence? Okay, so I believe Dr. Pandey has lost the connection. Now I would request Gaurav sir, if we can have your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education? So I believe Gaurav ji has also lost the connection. So now we have two senior educators here who truly deserve to be become Minister of Education. So I would request Suryadev sir, sir, if you can have your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education?
See, the second part is a bit imaginary, so I will be giving imaginary answer. But my concluding remark on the session is, very good to be here, to be with such a academicians like so many principals and others. And thanks to you and Lalaji Schools and to Ms. Kamya Chaudhary who have contacted me. Now, my concluding remark on new education policy is that let us be hopeful. It has got potential if implemented correctly, can change the whole scenario in the education system in a positive manner. Number two, it gives emphasis on experience learning, which is a key to success to be a technology hub, knowledge hub. It will provide an opportunity for Sundar Pichai not to work for not to work in a others country for other company, but it will give a chance for many Microsoft, Google, Intel, such company to nurture and blossom here in India. And if I happen to become a education minister for one day, I would make it mandatory for all school and colleges to have a place where any idea at any point of time, if a student experiences in his brain, can practice it practically in their school or college premises. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, the brain drain, to stop brain drain would be your priority, so that we can stop Sundar Pichai or, other people to go outside of a country. In fact, there is a wonderful documentary. I'll share the link of the documentary in the chat box, that shows, why China is China, why India is India. That China has began many mission mode programs. So many technocrats who were earlier working in different countries, they have come back to China and they are running their technology program, at their school or for universities. So thank you, Suryadev sir, for your remark. Now I would request, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Now I would request, ma'am, if we can have your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education for one day?
So, if it is going to happen, it will be right to education for everybody. And an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. That's what I have observed till now. And the only person who is educated is the one who has learned how to learn and accept the change, not come up with and look for solutions. So that is something which we are doing right now. So that is there. My concluding remark, and thank you, School Lalaji, for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kavita ma'am, for that wonderful remark. And absolutely, we agree with you. In fact, a lot of educators in the past sessions have shared that only an educator should become the Minister of Education. So you all truly deserve to be the Minister of Education, right? So thank you, Kavita ma'am, thank you, Puneet ma'am, thank you, Suryadev sir, Gaurav ji, Soumya, and Dr. Pandey for joining and making this session truly special. Thank you, everyone. We'll end the session here. Thank you all.
Thank you.